We're into the second week at this year's Australian Open, so with that being said, let's do a little outlook at week 2 for this year's men's Australian Open, and let's get started about the few quarterfinal matchups that we now know about. The big one being Novak Djokovic, Carlos Alcaraz, big time matchup there. And for Djokovic, right, he's been playing a little bit better. He got off to a little bit of a slow start. I was kind of worried. He's looked good his last few matches there. Let's see if that carries over. I think this one has the potential to be a good one. But Alcarez right now, guys, is rolling. I imagine Alcarez would be the big betting favorite. I don't have any sort of betting lines in front of me here, but I would imagine the way that Alcarez has looked, and now not to mention he's a little bit more rested, Alcarez probably going to be the heavy favorite in that matchup. Also, guys, there's another quarterfinal matchup that we now know about, and I'm kind of interested to see how this one plays out. It's Alexander Zverev taking on Tommy Paul. Zverev, you guys know, that big first serve, the great backhand. This is a surface that's pretty good for the game of Zverev. A big opportunity for him here to make another deep run into this year's Australian Open. Remember last year, and he's already quarterfinals this year. Last year was a semifinalist, lost 5 sets to Daniil Medvedev. Let's see what Zverev does with the opportunity. But speaking of opportunities, Tommy Paul has a big one here. Paul's playing very well. Of course, like I said, making it to the quarterfinals here. His game is pretty steady all the way around. Can he get over the hump here? This is kind of where we see Tommy Paul start to fall. He beats the guys he's supposed to beat, gets into one of these scenarios, usually loses. Can Paul pull off an upset? That's the question here. So now that takes us now to some of the other matchups that are out there, kind of what we're looking at, the grand scheme of things, right? We obviously know that, what we just talked about, those quarterfinalists, at least 2 of those guys going to be semifinalists. Now here's your round 4 matchups, kind of what we're looking at here. The big name, guys, is Jannik Sinner. Sinner, shocker, right? Looking good at the Australian Open, last year's defending champ, U.S. Open champ last year, ATP Finals winner last year. Everybody has him as the favorite to win this year's Australian Open. He's looking every bit of the part right now. He has Holger Rune, which, hey, great matchup there. But really, this is a great draw for Sinner. Just looking at that half of the bracket that he's out of, he's the overwhelming favorite to get out of that half of the bracket. I already was. Now you look at the matchups out there. If he does not make the Australian Open final, I'd be really surprised. But a few other big headlines out there, right? For example, we have Alex de Minaur, who's from Australia. He's going to have the home country behind him. Let's see what that does for him. It's elevated his game up so far. Can it continue to elevate his game up? Can it cause his opponents to maybe get inside of their head? The whole mental advantage there for Alex de Minaur. We'll see. Time's going to tell. Now, obviously, at some point, it's going to come down to a skill set thing. And, you know, we're talking about the home field advantage. I think if he matches up with Jannik Sinner at some point, I don't care if there's home field advantage or not. That matchup favors Sinner all day, every day. But nonetheless, de Minaur, great first showing here in 2025. And then, guys, the other one that I'm looking out for, another big headline just being here in America, 3 Americans still left in play. We did talk about one of them in Tommy Paul, the opportunity out there for him. But Ben Shelton's actually a guy that I want to talk about. Shelton, a big opportunity, in my personal opinion, to maybe make a semifinal here. Now, again, it's not a layup. I am not saying he's going to, but this is such a big opportunity for him. Everybody knows he has the talent. Everybody's been waiting for him for one of these major championships to have another really big, deep run, kind of like we saw in that U.S. Open a few years ago. It's right here for Ben Shelton. He's on a surface that favors that big power game of his. Can Shelton capitalize? Out of the 3 Americans left, I would like his chances the best. Again, uphill battle for all 3 of them. So, guys, that's kind of a little bit of the week 2 kind of outlook, the more recent ones. Again, we kind of talked about those quarterfinals that we saw here. What I'm curious to see out of those would be if we do see Zverev and Alcarez, that's must-see tennis right there. I would be so excited to see that matchup with those 2 guys. We know that they usually tend to always go back and forth and always have great matches. Just look at last year's French Open final, a 5-setter there. So I really want to see those 2 square off. If it is Novak Djokovic, going to be interesting. This Djokovic to beat Alcaraz would be playing super, super well. And this is obviously Djokovic's best surface. Again, I think a little bit more of an uphill battle for Novak here with these bigger names that are out there. But so those are kind of the big ones. And then, of course, the other headline, guys, Jannik Sinner. I expect him to be in the final here. I'm curious to see how all this is going to play out. There's so many moving parts here. Sinner's definitely, looking at this week 2 outlook, Sinner's my lock to make the final. The rest of it, though, Man, there's a lot of exciting matchups out there. We're in store for a great week 2 at the Australian Open.